Test, test. Can anybody hear me? Test, test. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, John, you can be heard.
Oh, thank you. I'll mute now. Lynn, I'm still with you. And has the meeting started yet?
enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise,
Everybody ready? The Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Will Jones, Rufus Borum, and Justin Campbell. You're hereby notified that a special what's a different one? Special call meeting. You got a different call. I don't have a call for this meeting. No call on here.
Would you like
Go ahead and read it. I don't have it.
to the members? You are hereby notified that a special called meeting of the Plaque City Commission has been called to be held on Wednesday, April the 7th, 2021 at Plaque City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Plaque, Florida 32177. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting is called to commence at 6 o'clock p.m. Please govern yourselves accordingly.
All right. Now that we've called the meeting to order, we'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have our Pledge of Allegiance at this time by Mr. Jonathan Griffith, and we will have our invocation by Pastor Alonzo Mulberry, chaplain.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you once again for allowing us to come together. We thank you for this opportunity to be in your presence. We thank you because you've been good all day long. God, we look to you tonight for directions, for guidance, for instructions. Help us to do the things that are needful for the city. Those things will be pleasing in your sight. And we'll forever praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Terrell Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Here. Commissioner Rufus Borum,
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
All present and accounted for.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next up on the agenda is public comment. Public comments limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. Anyone wishing to speak during public comment, please dial 386-329-0100, extension 0, 386-329-0100, extension 0, or you can use the YouTube chat function. For those who are in the audience, please fill out a yellow speaker's card that's next to the guy with the charcoal blazer. So when you come to the podium, give your name and address for the record, or as you're speaking on either one of our IT functions. At this time, we're going to open the floor for public comment. General public comment is now open. Is there anything in the YouTube chat?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Seeing nothing in the YouTube chat, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have one item to adopt resolution number 2021 R33, authorize acceptance and execution of an agreement for FAA Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. The grant funding for the K. Larkin Airport in the amount of $23,000. Do you wish to have this item removed for discussion? Do we wish to have discussion on this item, or at this time I'll entertain a motion unless we need further information? It's a motion to approve. There's a second by Commissioner Campbell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 4 of the agenda, adopt resolution 2021 R34, granting special events permits for Memorial Day Parade. American Legion. Bert Hodge, Post 45 is the applicant at this time. Mr. Cutright, are you coming forward to give the presentation or give a summation of the event, and then we will hear from the applicant if necessary.
Thank you, there, Commissioner, Mayor. We called the meeting here just to get a clarity on the parades that we have in the city of Plaque. The American Legion's post, let me make sure I get that right, 45 put an application on in March the 1st, asking for permission to have this. They did provide us with a decent COVID plan. Also asking for permission to use the police, city police, to have some of the streets blocked off for this event. The event has been going on for a while, but last year because of COVID, it was canceled. And now we're just seeking permission to open things back up.
Okay, do we have a representative from Post 45? You want to come forward at this time? Commander, you want to come forward?
My name's Ken Moore, Post Commander, Bert Hodge, Post 45. We have a plan that we're trying to, we want to put in place to have the parade. We're wanting to have people along the parade route encouraging social distancing, to put up signs along the way to encourage social distancing. We want to talk to those who are going to participate in the parade to either wear a mask or do social distancing. We want to cooperate in any way we can, but we'd like to have this permission to go ahead with the parade.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Any concerns? I'll give my concern, since everybody's, since there are no others at this time. My only thing is, so I guess the biggest thing one of the things I've never seen is a socially distanced parade. And we've had other events with large number of people gathering in one place. I've got a bit of angst as it relates to parades, being able to control gatherings in the same way along a parade route for several blocks. But what I will say, if this is an event that the commission is considering passing, I would just say mandate. One of the things that I would ask is that there not be the option of the social distancing aspect without masking, that there be mandatory masking at this event, no different than what we've seen at some other events throughout, where anyone coming to the event is required to wear a mask, and also those participating in the event are required to wear a mask, so that we can maybe eliminate some of the other caveats that we have, just because we don't know how many people will show, how you can control the event, or what other things are in place. And I don't necessarily see an elaborate plan for social distancing as it relates to this. I think the depiction may have been proper. And so that's one of the concerns that I have, is just masking. Is there any opposition to requiring everyone who comes, as you know, to view, or even those who participate, to wear a mask?
Ask everybody to sign from agreeing to wear a mask to participate in the parade. And we put down the paper also, and that's what required on the route.
So for those who couldn't hear, he was just saying that they didn't have any opposition to requiring the participants to have to wear masks during the time of the parade. Any questions, concerns, or thoughts on that, on my comments from the commission?
Well, I would like to just add in terms of, along the parade route, I would say maybe just put some X's down or whatever, or some spot 6 feet apart. I think that would probably add a little bit more clarity to where people should stand. And for people who are together, I mean, in terms of friends, family who's together, they can stay in those areas, similar to like the bass tournament that they have. So if we can do something along those lines, along with I don't know, I know we had implemented something where they had a spiel to where, continue to, stay socially distanced, those type things. I think, we could possibly do something along those lines, but I'll give the floor to the rest of the commissioners.
And I just don't want to repeat, what you basically keep elaborating on what you all said, but just clarification on more crowd control. You're asking that. So markers are being placed.
Yeah, put some
Definitely,
X's down.
definitely, if everyone participating in the parade has masks and those that are coming, we encourage that everyone wear masks, and kind of us repeating like some general reminders about, please make sure you social distance and mask up.
And if they, they have an individual who kind of like, well, I do know, and I think they had a event down in Central Florida where they constantly had people, reminding people to make sure you put your mask on, wear your mask. Otherwise, there's no penalty that can be, but you can maybe ask them to leave the area if well, I don't think we can control that much, but you see if they can comply in any way possible to help for everybody who participates and stay as safe as possible.
And I agree with that, but my question would be, and I think that's good, and I know we can't impose any penalties
Right.
on it, but it'll help with the reminders, but the work that it will entail for them to go down and put those markers down, like you're saying, the 6 feet markers, and having staff to go out and do that, just asking about the
Just
time it would
tape.
take.
I
or-
just say tape. I mean, just a little bit of tape, just put a,
But
tape
I
down.
I wouldn't put the onus on staff to do it. I think it'd be
Right.
something for the
That-
So
that'd
participants
that's
to
what
do.
I want to
Right.
get some
I
clarification.
think the other thing is, I think with the sentiment, you also got to understand, you're talking about a parade that's going to cover a significant number of blocks.
Yeah.
And the 6-foot distancing, it's going to be difficult to do in that way. I think what you can do, which may cover the same spirit of what I think both of you are talking about, is to encourage them to have signage on every block which says, continue to social distance or whatever. I just don't see how you can have a socially distanced parade. That's why I think masking is going to be more critical than anything else in those situations. If we were further along with vaccinating and other things and the numbers were up, then, then some of the risks are lower. But I think overall, you just have to encourage the signage and encourage the applicants to have people to say, hey, you got to pull your mask up, do whatever to really enforce what the city is requiring. Yes, sir. Come forward.
They did say, I talked to Mr. Moore earlier today, and he did say they would volunteer to have people stage through the parade route,
Right.
encouraging people to continue to use social distancing and wear your mask. So they did have that place, and also they would put signs along that 2.5 mile route that the parade would be on about the social distance, and also
2.5 miles.
the parade route. This is the first parade from here, so.
It won't be 2 miles.
I thought it was just run down.
Okay, but the parade route. North Carolina, we have
That's
2.5
enough.
miles.
That's
So,
in North
in
Carolina.
Palaca, the parade route that they have in Palaca, I'm sorry, a little bit more territory in North Carolina than in Palaca. But yes, he did say they would have signs staged along that route to continue to tell people to practice social distance and wear your mask, and they'll have people staged in areas too to kind of help police that as much as they can.
That makes me feel better because I know just historically speaking of the parade, it's heavily populated around the 9th Street, anywhere from where the parade starts up into Ameris Bank, and then it kind of fickles out, and spacing isn't really not an issue. But if we would be able to have people, especially within those crowded areas or the general areas that we have known to be crowded, that will give me a little bit more peace with making a decision as well. Along that route, again, having those signs and having those additional people, volunteers or whomever it may be, along those crowded areas to help with that crowd control and the mass control.
What about, I guess, just a question. What about folks who traditionally throw candy and things of that
That
nature?
was one of my next concerns.
Well, their recommendation will be no food and candy provided at the parade from the coordinator's position. Now, if department stores around the neighborhood do that, we can't control that, but the coordinator itself is not doing no food or candy.
And can we make sure that that's something, and if this is approved, that is put out on any advertisement, so that there won't be any, I think that'll also help with the crowd control as well, because a lot of time the people flock down for the candy. So if we can make sure that there will be no candy thrown, it's provided in the literature, I think that'll be great as well.
Any other questions, concerns?
Just a thing, just because this is basically a pilot. I think this is a pilot, and it will kind of help determine if we can do future events based on how this turns out. And so we certainly would like for, if it's approved, if it's approved, that, that this be the pilot for going forward, how we can do or think about parades going forward.
Commander?
Yeah, we agree. If we can't social distance, we need to have the masks. And we also have in place a plan that we will have masks present and available to those circulating through the crowd to hand them out. Those who don't have one, we want to encourage it. Everyone that participates in the parade will be required to sign an agreement to wear a mask or social distance either way, and no candy or food along the route will not be handed out. We have the Military Officers Association, the board, the submarines on board, the FWs on board support this. So we have all these organizations. We had our personal meeting today to just kind of start to see where we go from here. But we want to work with this to keep this down too. And we are determined, and with the volunteers from other organizations helping us, we can make this work. Yes, sir.
Commander, I just have one question. Historically, what are the numbers? What's the size of the crowd historically?
I think the biggest crowd we had altogether, we made a count, the last big one we had was like 400 altogether. Now, not everybody's on the parade route. Some people were already mingling down by the riverfront, hanging out down there because of music or something, but about 400. It's never a large crowd. Most of them show up at other places for a free lunch or whatever, but it's about 300 to 400 on average here.
I think you're cheating yourself. Your parades are pretty popular. It's not the biggest in town, but you get a decent crowd.
I think due to the excitement of us possibly having a parade, it's going to be maybe a few more. The numbers are going to be a bit more higher.
It's gonna look like Christmas.
Yeah.
Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, if I could, the conditions that I have written down that I heard discussed for clarity's sake with the minutes and Mr. Cutright were that the sponsors of the parade would have people who are participating in the parade sign an agreement to either wear a mask or social distance. That was A.
Mr. Holmes, I've been told your microphone's not on.
I am so happy that we're doing this by Zoom with microphones. The conditions that I understand the board has discussed, the commission has discussed, are as follows. One, that the sponsor would agree to have people who are participating in the parade sign an agreement to wear masks or social distance. That was B. A. B would be that the sponsors would have people positioned along the parade route who would be encouraging those who were spectators to social distance and or wear a mask. C.
And not or.
Social distance and wear a mask. Okay. All right. And that would be the same thing as to A, you want the people participating to agree to wear a mask and social distance.
If possible.
C, you would like the advertisement, any advertisements that are noticing or publicizing the parade to contain a notice that no candy or food will be distributed by the parade participants.
Yes, sir.
And D, extra masks would be made available by the sponsors for spectators at no charge. Those are the four that I had.
Anything else, Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to maybe add one or two other things where possibly have hand sanitizer provided. I mean, if you have hand sanitizer, maybe at the blocks, at each block area, wherever you maybe. And also, I don't know, this might be stretching it, but you only say you had 400. So a temperature check, temperature check. 400, you only have 400.
No, outside, everybody's gonna be hot. It's gonna be May. Every temperature's gonna be 101.
That's why I added it last.
Because they're already walking 2.5 miles.
Okay, so.
Just strike the temperature check, strike it. But just make sure you know with the last item that I had.
So even though there's no food being distributed, you want hand sanitizer stations at each block intersection?
We want to have how many? I mean, it's just down St. John's, right? Maybe? No?
What is the parade route? I'm sorry, the beginning and end of the parade is where?
Okay.
11th. And although they may not be throwing out food, they may be bringing food and sharing food and different things like that. So if we can take a shot at having the hand sanitizer stations, that would be good. I mean, any safety measure we can implement is worth the try.
Hand sanitizer station then at each cross street.
Like a block.
From 11th Street to the river.
Yeah.
That's a lot. How about a couple stations? How about a couple sanitizer stations along the route?
Or 3, I mean, just block.
Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have most people are not gonna be having exchanges like that. But if you have a couple stations along the route, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, just add it, couple stations, whatever it is. At least it'll be available.
Okay,
Right.
So yeah, they don't. Yeah, just put 2. Just 2.
At least 2.
Yeah.
All right. 2 or more.
Yeah.
Minimum of 2, right?
That covers commissioners. That covers commissioners' concerns. They'll be used, definitely. They'll be used.
All right, so 2 or more hand sanitizer stations positioned along the route.
Yep.
Have that, Sonny?
Anything else? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve based on the conditions that we as a commission put forth and concerns and accept this event.
Second.
Motion on the floor in a second. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes unanimously. Never thought I would pass a motion for a socially distanced parade, but the veterans has got it. So you are definitely the test for this. And again, gentlemen, thank you for your service and for your commitment to this community. Commander, you worked us over. Mr. Cutright may be a little biased as well as a veteran. Next up, adopt resolution 2021 R35, granting special events permit for Wilson's Children's Hospital Bass Tournament, May 13th through May 15th, 2021. Come on, you can come up, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Paul Hamilton with Wilson Children's Bass Tournament. We had our committee members go to the BASS tournament to view how and what they did. And a lot of ours is modeled behind them. Some changes that we've made this year that we were doing in the past, the big tent that we had with all the chairs under it, we've done away with the big tent. We'll still have chairs, but they'll be socially distanced, stretched out throughout the lawn. We'll have multiple hand wash stations, more than we've had before, and multiple hand sanitizer stations. We're having the carpenter shop build partitions like this right now that you have here for the registration table and the weigh-in table. Signs, multiple signs all over saying, face mask and social distancing. One thing you have to think about, this is a healthcare facility that's putting on this tournament. So all of our, I'd say 90% of our volunteers work there at the hospital. The fishermen, they're used to this already. The committee follows a lot of these fishermen in different tournaments to go see how and what they're doing. So most of the guys have a good idea of what they're supposed to be doing at these tournaments and not doing. So we're glad to come back this year. We didn't have it last year. So two other things that we're doing to help reduce the crowd. We're not doing the boat drawing at the tournament, which is a large crowd draw. That will be done online the following weekend. And we're not giving away door prizes at this tournament. And that's being put out there on our website so that it reduces the crowd also. But we still want to have the tournament. We still want to, collect funds for the hospital. I mean, it's a big deal for the Children's Hospital.
What's your pre-registration right now on your fishermen?
Usually it's slow. We're probably 110, but we're running the same as we always do. The day of the tournament, oh my gosh, we'll have 200-300 sign up the morning of the tournament.
You usually run about 500.
About 485 is our average, yes.
And I think Wilson's is the largest fishing tournament in this region.
It's the largest single day tournament in the United States of America.
Right. And so we definitely appreciate you coming to Plaque, choosing Plaque as your site annually. So within each boat, is there a marshal in each of these boats as well?
Actually, it's teams. It's the gentleman and his partner. They don't have marshals in the boats like they do for BASS. Whenever they come to weigh in, only one fisherman's allowed to come and be up on stage. They can't come as a pair. That's one of the rules we enacted this year to help with the social distancing. But even though they've been together in a boat all day, we don't want both of them coming up on stage together because there'll be other people on stage. So it's a big deal for us. We make a lot of money for the hospital for that.
Right. Let me just make sure. This was listed as a Class B, correct? You listed this as a Class B? It's Class A? Okay. So just wanted to make sure. So we'll.
That distinction is blurred a little bit. They list their maximum attendance at 1,000, and the cutoff for Class B is 1,000.
Right.
But when you add the 125 volunteers that they've listed, I don't know if that's supposed to be included in the attendance figure or not,
That 125 will stretch over to 3 days, the day of the big tournament Saturday. We have 3 different shifts of people that come in and help, and that day we'll have about 75 volunteers, but that's 3 different shifts.
I think for the purposes of any distinction, this is the Class A tournament, and by far the largest tournament that we do in Plaque, kind of the grandfather of all tournaments here. Even though Bassmaster Elite may get the notoriety in some forms, this tournament gets just as much notoriety and probably 3 times the participation. And so, yes, sir.
Do you anticipate having food vendors?
1 food vendor.
And is that in the nature of a food truck or?
Yes, sir. It's Mr. Stalvey. He's done a couple of tournaments already this year here.
And the chairs, will there be seating accommodations for those who buy the food?
Mm-hmm.
Is there gonna be an eating area?
Well, they can spread out, and sit in the chairs, but not a designed eating area. We won't have, seats or picnic tables for those people to congregate and eat.
And one of the things we required previously was that there be markings at the vendor stations so that people can properly socially distance on the ground.
Okay.
I think Stalby's is one of the ones that typically comes in the bin. He's very familiar.
Yeah.
That's who you have coming in.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah. So
Mr.
Jerry,
Stalby.
Jerry's group they're very familiar
Mhm.
with the requirements. Also, the seating areas, if you're gonna have seats out, are you gonna have seats out during the weigh-ins?
Yes, we will. That's where we normally have that large tent with all the seats in one area. But now what we're doing, we're taking those seats and spreading them out.
Over the 6 feet, which is what, you just employed the standards that we had from Bass and that were adopted by the commission.
One
Any,
final question, and I've actually volunteered at this tournament before in transporting fishermen. So you're gonna have carts and a bus transportation to take the fishermen from the parking areas to the.
I would assume as much because the chamber's helping us out with that. Miss Julie always handles that, yes. Mhm.
Right, so I mean, I don't know how far the commission wants to go, but
With
we're
this-
gonna have,
the safeguards and masking.
yeah, I guess you have volunteers be wearing masks.
Oh, yes,
Right.
volunteers will be wearing masks,
So
yes.
mandates for masking during transport as well, right? The carts. Any concerns from the commission? This is probably our most familiar area with events. Any other comments or concerns? Any other requests that we need to put inside of the activities on
Do you have
this
the
event?
hand sanitizer?
The sanitizing station?
He said he had quite a bit of.
Yeah, we're actually building individual stations to set them all over the place.
So the list that I have is there be no tent provided at site or erected at site.
Wait, hold on. There will be tents, the people that do all that, the ladies that sit at the tables that calculate all the weigh-ins. And on the registration side where they collect registration, there will be tents there, but they will not be tents for gathering for spectators.
Okay, so no spectator tent.
There you go.
Okay. Chairs will be provided, but will be at social distances. You will have multiple hand wash and hand sanitization stations or hand sanitizer stations. You'll have signs which encourage face masks and social distancing. You'll have no boat drawing at the tournament. You have no door prizes being awarded at the tournament. You'll have one fisherman on stage from each team for the weigh-in. You'll have one food vendor. You will have social distance markings at the food vendor's location, and all volunteers will wear face masks.
And Mr. Cutright, all those things are enumerated in that COVID regulation that we set forth for fishing, and you can just put, they are to adopt the city's COVID regulations for fishing tournaments that may not be listed, and any other regulations that may not be listed from the city in our fishing tournament regulations.
I think they have a couple here that were unique to this. So
Right.
like the no door prizes, the one fisherman on stage at a time and so forth. But the list I read is, I think, what you said you plan to do anyway, and then the commission comments. So that's.
Yeah, those are the same ones. That one fisherman on the stage was the same ones that was adopted from Bass, and also Bassmaster. Well, Bassmaster adopted Bass's stuff as well. So, any other comments or concerns?
The only other thing I have is, he's gonna have, all that hand sanitizer. You can leave that for, post 45.
Okay.
He said donate it afterwards. All right. Seeing no other concerns from the commission, what's the pleasure of the commission at this time?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's a motion to approve with the
With the modifications specification that the city manager just set forth, in addition to what we already have as fishing tournament regulations that we approved.
Motion to approve with enumerated criteria. There's a second by Commissioner Campbell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Good to see you again. Next up, Resolution 2021 R36, granting special events permit to Plaque Young Professionals for the Plaque Wine Mixer, May 29th, 2021. We have a representative from PYP. Mr. Bates, how are you today, sir?
Doing good. Good evening.
Yes, sir. If you want to go ahead and give us a summation.
Summation is
Go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Mr.
address.
Bates, Plaque Young Professionals. Summation is really a one-day event, May 29th. It would begin with a farmer's market in the boat ramp area. There would also be vendors and food distribution. And then towards the afternoon, there would be live music and a beer tent on the side. So, I mean, it's hard to, we've got, when you look at the 2 masking stations, ordering 4,000 masks, setting up dining at 50% capacity, 21 restrooms, 8 hand washing stations, 6 hand sanitizer stations, obviously requesting vendors to have hand sanitizer at all booths, spacing out vendors, and then increasing trash bins to just, to decrease trash, and also having that so everything is as contactless as possible. Marking out 6-foot lines for food or alcohol sales when appropriate, and then making announcements between bands, going over CDC standards, signage, verbiage, advertising ahead of time to socially distance, wear masks.
What's your anticipated attendance?
It's hard to say. I mean, estimating probably, it is Memorial Day weekend. There hasn't been events, so it could be 10 to 15,000 people.
Ooh, that ain't enough. We want to hear.
Over the whole period, or that?
One day
It's
event.
just one day
Same day.
event. It's a one-day event.
That's the hard part, because that's the unknown, because again, there hasn't been any other events, and it is Memorial Day weekend. You put a tent up, you put that. I don't know. There might be 5, but is there a pent-up demand out there that people are going to see that and want to come out? It could happen.
And drink and have one.
The written summation says you're prepared for up to 25,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
25,000 people. That's a lot.
I think it's looking at Blue Crab numbers and kind of dividing that out for one day.
Is there any way you can control the entry? And I can't, how could you socially distance that number of people unless it's spread across?
Well, it would be from basically from the bridge all the way to the boat ramp, spread out that way. But it is hard to do. And as you know, that is a thing that I think we've looked at before with events. Downtown, there's so many eager ways to get in and out of there. You can't just have like 1 or 2, you couldn't have 1 or 2, even if we had, let's say we had the greatest thermal scanner that everybody goes through, but where do you put it? And there's loopholes in it. So, downtown has a lot of great things with the size of the river, the breadth of the river, but controlling that, like we try to look at concert. Well, if you want to do a concert and sell tickets, how do you have a gate, right? So that's the big challenge with that. One of the, the pros and cons.
Did you say you were going to have a band?
Yes.
One band or multiple bands?
Live music would start at 11 a.m. and go to 11 to 11.
And is that going to be at one location, like a tent? Is that?
Yes.
That tent just going.
Well, a stage area.
I'm trying to picture 6 feet dancing with a partner and everybody's doing that.
And I would say, and maybe this is too soon, but at least we're having the discussion. You know what I mean? No one wants to, but it's when are we ready? What does that look like? So, I think as long, when do we get back to that? Because, Blue Crab you know, and I learned a lot from that, because that, you know, really that's a community event. You know, there's a lot of people that have done a lot of work, and it means a lot to this community. And, you know, not to have something, obviously last year it made sense. So it was trying to do something this year. But I mean, it is tough, because once you start having things with masks, bathrooms, all this, your costs go up. So you try, I mean, it's hard to scale back.
And the main concern is the crowd control and the safety concerns. And I'm visualizing from an educator's perspective, when we have over 500 or 600 kids at a field day event, and the manpower it requires to keep kids and, you know, control their behaviors. And I'm just trying to picture that's a lot of work with only 500 kids. So 25,000 people.
Did you say you're gonna have alcohol sales?
Yes, sir.
Is that gonna be throughout the event? I mean, is it gonna be from 11 to 11?
Along with the music and
Probably along that, probably start at noon, but yes, sir, throughout. That would be 3 different distributors, Burkhart, just to have different varieties. Obviously with a wine mixer, try to push some wine sales, bottle sales along with that.
You're gonna need more rescue for when people pass out.
Yeah, and we learned that. I think water is a big thing to have, water stations.
You know, people become less socially compliant as the
100% as the day goes on.
Just
intoxicated they become, the less compliant they're going to be.
Wine
So I'm imagining that as well.
Wine makes it fine.
What did you say?
I said the wine will make it fine. So what, yes, sir, Commissioner Moore.
Well, I just have one quick comment, but I do know other cities were kind of doing some things, and I looked up the Plant City had their Strawberry Festival, which I'm from down that area. I think they put up about 500 to 600,000 people. I know various parades. I know they had the county parade, which is only about around a third or fifth of what you're anticipating or whatever. But that's quite a bit. And I don't know what they did down there in Plant City to control that number of people at the event, but it's just something to kind of at least think about. The event is not until sometime later this year. I would like to see what some of the other events, how did they handle certain things along those lines, but they did have the Strawberry Festival this year down in Plant City. And I do know there's a big turnout down there. So, and I
think that's one of the main reasons, you know, here tonight is to kind of work through that and figure out what, you know, that timing, what it looks like, look at other things. But, you know, as a community, like, it's good to see those 2 events approved. So how do we start to have things? How do we do it safe? You know, but we still, you know, we still want to have those events at some point, you know, because they're great events for this community. So it's always, you know, it's at least we're moving along.
And Commissioner, the reason we really can't afford to wait is because events with as many features and facets as this require a lot of time for planning. So if they're going to put something like this on, they really can't afford to wait till 2 weeks before the event to get approval, yes or no. And so that's why we put it on the agenda tonight, because they need to know, you know, if there are going to be restrictions, what they are, what the parameters are, in order for them to make plans and book whatever they need to book in terms of food, beverages, bands, and so forth. So that's why we really didn't think we could afford to wait another 3 weeks or a month for them to, if they're going to move forward. And then, so that's why it's on there tonight.
Commissioner Jones.
Well, just a suggestion, as I'm listening to the city manager, maybe you guys think of doing something at a smaller scale and maybe include the brewery that we have here locally, and maybe stop by doing a block event versus several blocks, and that you could probably control the interest ways and stuff like that. And maybe something like that, just to start at a smaller scale, we could be okay with that. But I'm just gonna tell you, 15 to 20,000 people, as we all pretty much have made a consensus, that is just a little too much too soon.
Okay.
Personally.
No, and listen, I mean, I don't want this to be a negative. I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
we're,
right.
we're figuring this out.
Yeah.
You know, like, and maybe, who knows, maybe it's September, you know, Labor Day weekend, for instance, you know, or maybe it's next Blue Crab, May a year from now. But I think we just want to have that engagement and get some direction
Right.
to know, you know, what can be approved and what can't.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and then I know that you guys want us to make a decision, and
You know, with sponsors, I mean, at a certain point, but it's it's not like, I don't want you guys to feel like we got it. I mean, we're at that time, we have to have it, but it's not a negative or, hey, you know, but it's just, we've got to start collecting, you know, deposits and everything else. So it's at that point.
I would love to see it happen, but the concerns and the responsibilities saying that we got to be more responsible and can't at that scale right now. And you know, that's my personal opinion, and as a commissioner, but it's at the favor of the commission itself.
Commissioner McCaskill.
And out of respect, Commissioner Jones, I respect your personal opinion, and me personally, and speaking with a few constituents, I'm ready to move forward and see these events happen. We just had a fair. I know that we have the COVID vaccinations available to quite a few people, you know, opening up for a wider age range, and I'm just ready to move forward, and I would like to see this happen. And I know that we can, you know, try to make, you know, determine how many people are going to attend events or whatever, but we can't knock it until we try it. I mean, we can keep kicking the can down the road and saying, you know, the safety precautions, and I understand that, but me personally, I would like to see it move forward. I do have a few concerns about the wine and the alcohol, the times they're serving it, and like I said, the more intoxicated people become, they become less compliant. So that would be a concern, but I'm ready to see some normalcy and for us to have some more events. So,
Commissioner Moore.
Right. Well, the only other thing I have is and I think Commissioner Jones did mention about the scale of it. Do you have an idea of what the amount of people per se to attend the event, to kind of estimate the funding that the expenses that you pay in order to put the event on, and your recouping of those fundings? And have you kind of maybe estimated, because you had it for 1 year, and I don't know how your numbers ran, but just say, for instance, if you scaled it, if you don't do 25,000, and if you scaled it, you know, do you have a certain number that you can possibly make sure that you don't go in the hole, and you're able to recoup?
I think it's really not necessarily a number. It kind of comes down to the features, because with the event, you have several different revenue streams. Obviously, one of the largest is sponsorships. Another large one is alcohol sales. And then you also collect money from vendors and, you know, the food vendors, and also those that show up. So those are kind of your three streams. And that's what I mean, it's hard. An event like this, I mean, it's hard to scale it back, because once you start bringing in, you know, the masks, you start bringing in the portable bathrooms and all these things, you know, those bathrooms could really support between 5 and 25. So I think to do it, some of those costs don't come down. If you have a stage for a band, that'll be scaled back from what it was at Blue Crab, but there's still a fixed cost with that.
Got one speaker card, Ms. Kitchens.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I have several concerns. I'll start with the one that's personal. Loud music. I know you all suspend the sound ordinance, and at previous Blue Crab festivals, they've been very, very good about keeping the sound down. And on occasion, when I did have to call PD, the Blue Crab turned the sound down. I'm a mile away, and by the way, for Mr. Cutright's information, 10 city blocks equals 1 mile roughly. I don't need to hear boom boxing, shaking my house and rattling my windows 1 mile from downtown Palatka, nor does anybody else. I don't think Ms. McCaskill would like it either. She lives across the street from me. So I'm very, very concerned about the noise, and I would request that these folks make sure that you cannot hear the booming past the Riverfront Park. There's no sense in that. Now that's the personal thing. The other thing is, I also know that when you serve alcohol, you have to have X number of policemen for every amount of people that attend. I think it's one, for every 1,000 people, you have to have one policeman. I know that our police department has been shorthanded. They have patrol officers and supervisors, supervisors and captains actually riding patrol. So, and then you have to have the alcohol liability insurance in addition to the property liability. I did not see anything about the police, the alcohol liability, or the property liability in the agenda packet. So that's something that has to be taken into consideration. My main concern for me personally and my neighbors is the loud music. I recently had a neighbor, someone from the Hill area around the Daily News called me and complained that for the past 2 weeks, VIX has been having loud parties with music rattling people's windows a mile away. That's not acceptable there, and it's not acceptable here. So I would ask that these folks make sure that the music cannot be heard. There's no reason to have to hear it past the riverfront. The other thing is, since this is Memorial Day weekend, and historically for the past 20 odd years, Blue Crab Festival has been held on Memorial Day weekend. So anything on Memorial Day weekend is going to make people think it's Blue Crab Festival. That is going to bring in the people. Once that goes out, and even if these people don't, if Palatka Young Professionals does not advertise, it's still going to go out on social media by the people, and you're going to have a huge crowd. The riverfront is between 983 to 1,000 feet long from the bridge to the boathouse. 25,000 people along there. It's going to be really hard to distance it at six feet apart. Also, you need to check with the hotel to make sure they're okay with having the street closed. In times past, they have requested that 2nd Street not be closed because it affects their customers. So I would think you need to take all these things into consideration. And again, as Ms. McCaskill pointed out, and I think Mr. Holmes did also, when people drink, they become less inhibited. So they're going to be, and the word mixer means mixer. I think this is simply a one-day Blue Crab Festival under the name of Wine Mixer, but please make them keep the noise down to where you can't hear it past the Riverfront Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I think my overall concern is, and this is a request, and it may not, or it may be possible. I just know at the beer tent, just seeing previous events, that's generally one of the most populated areas. Is there not a way that you would be able to have several beer tents, or at least 2 or 3 other options to grabbing some of that, so that a crowd is not gathering at that one specific location? Also, I have questions with regards to where the staging is going to be. If it's where it was with the previous Blue Crab Festival, or festival that was had by the Young Professionals, I was there for a great deal of that. So it was actually socially distanced even during that time. So I find peace if it's in that area because it is open. And then again, a lot of people don't like the same type of music. So that's going to also, but I do wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner McCaskill. As an adult, or as adults in our community, you have the option to stay home if you don't want to be in a heavily populated area. Again, at some point, we as a commissioner can't necessarily take our individual feelings as the sole feelings to make decisions. We have to take in consideration those who have put us in the position that we are in today. And I've had several conversations with those that want to move forward. I've had conversations with those who don't want to move forward. But at the end of the day, we as a commission have a duty to make sure that we try to make the best decision as possible. Again, if we allow other events to be put into place and put into place with the precautions, I feel that we should allow, or this is my personal opinion at this time, that we should allow or work with this organization to try to make this event happen, or some type of event to happen. But again, I said, and I'll say it again, we are here to make some of the tough decisions. And sometimes the tough decisions are not always the best decisions, but I'm here to do what I can as an individual that was trusted by the citizens of this community to move this event forward and other events.
David Parsons, Plaque Young Professionals. It is a similar footprint to the previous Blue Crab. We did plan to turn the stage to the side some so that it's kind of almost at the top of the hill, but facing all the way down Memorial. That way it would give more space for people to socially distance and space out. Typically we've set up at the top of the hill for the alcohol tent, and then we plan not to have tables and chairs, things like that. It'll be high top tables where you could stand, not necessarily sit, so that would keep people moving on. And then that way it does give, the entire space. You should be able to see the stage from one end of Memorial. So that gives a little more space. And then, like you said, we do have different types of bands. So we wouldn't have 15 to 25,000 people at one time. That's unlikely, but it would be throughout the entire day of the festival. So it would be, we have a lot of the bands that we had at Blue Crab, so that would be a draw. And we didn't plan to market, at least out of town especially. We'll market some on social media and minimize the marketing so that it wasn't, wouldn't draw a big crowd necessarily planning to come from other places. But things get shared, it could go either way.
You won't market it. You won't market out of town, but you're gonna market on social media.
So can you limit social media to just only within Plaque? No, I'm just gonna
We won't have any paid ads. How about that?
And I know that we can't limit the marketing, but I just wish there was, with the concern about the noise in our neighborhood, like, later in the night, because, of us old people, we tend to go to bed a little early over there in our area, so.
Yeah, go get some wine.
What time? It ends at 11?
We could look at the footprint and see if there was an ability to space it out. I know in the past we've had struggles with getting volunteers, and so having more area, we would need more volunteers, but we could look at what we could do for it. I mean,
That will give greater peace again with the knowing that that's one of the heavily populated areas. Or even if you don't, what precautions do you have in place that will be, one, visible, two, have individuals that's in that area to help enforce what is put into place? Because again, with something being so heavily populated, and we have to bring it into, again, when people tend to be intoxicated, rules tend to go out the window. Right. And again, we want to make sure that the young professionals are doing what they have to do, even in the mix of, and I know how crazy it can be on the day of, but that may have to, volunteer pool have to increase. But I want to know in that area, I'm not worried about the open space because people can properly socially distance, but in that small area that's confined to that tent where beer is going to be, beer, wine, whatever is going to be. So I am concerned about that, because even I feel that if you're in those lines, it's going to be a 15-minute wait at minimum. Right. Or so that's one of the CDC. If 15 minutes or longer, you consider yourself to be exposed. So right. How can you ensure the people that the patrons of that event, their safety while they're in that line trying to obtain that beer or wine? And we did go through other events and their precautions and all of their procedures and everything like that. And we had a team that went through and looked, modeled ours after events that have happened. So we've seen what's out there. We see what works and what doesn't. And so we do have time still that we could make changes to.
And one, like I said, we did look at different vendors for alcohol and did have a conversation with Champion. They do the Jaguar games. They're I think like Michelob, they do a lot of craft beer, things like that, White Claw, seltzers.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, but they've got the big 6-foot troughs they use at the Jag game. So we could inquire about using those and scatter those around.
Anything else?
Well, I just want to make sure that Commissioner Campbell's point get captured and assure that at least that those things, in the event this event is approved, that those things are in place even if people have consumed alcohol. We just want to make sure that things are not out of hand. We're just not here to have events for the sake of having events, and we know people are ready to come back and bring some normalcy back to the community. But I just want to reiterate the point that he made as it relates to that. And that'll kind of help me as well.
Any other questions, concerns, Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Mayor, just to mention, some of the issues that were spoken of could still be addressed in the permits that would still be required, i.e., as you know, there'd still be a noise variance required, which would come before the commission. And as you know, you have the ability to determine the hours during which the variance would apply. You also have alcohol sales, which would have to come before the commission separately because of our ordinances. So I just wanted to mention to whoever it was that mentioned that or spoke about that, those ordinances would still have to be complied with.
And they still have to go before our public safety folks with their final plan before any layouts are put in place. Just as we get ready to prepare for emotions, just a helpful statistic for most folks, 17% of the population thus far of the 60 and older category has been vaccinated in Putnam County. So I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion that we accept this event with the necessary precautions that we have talked about.
There's a motion to approve with the enumerated protocols.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Jones, any discussion at this point? Roll call. Okay, we're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 4-1. So good luck.
Good luck. Thanks.
You get a roll call vote on that?
I'm the only nay.
He's the only name.
Oh, you're not, I didn't even say.
I'm the only nay. So good luck, young professionals. And again, thank you guys for always stepping forward.
Maybe you all can gather outside this conversation and have dialogue so that we're able to move forward. Thank you.
All right, one last item that we brought forward at this time is the Plaque Housing Authority annual report. I wanted to bring this item forward. I had an opportunity to speak both with HUD and also with the Plaque Housing Authority to address the concerns that the commission raised at the last meeting, but we would need to have a motion so that we can continue discussion as an emergency item, to take this as an emergency item.
Motion that we accept this as an emergency item.
Second.
There's a motion for in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And so you have a packet of information, which is basically the same annual report that was given by the Plaque Housing Authority during our last meeting. If you look at the last 2 pages of the report, if you go to the last 2 pages, one is entitled affidavit, and the other is entitled FL 057 PHA 21 annual plan presentation, public hearing, meeting minutes. And so the big concern that we had, the major concern we had with Plaque Housing was that they didn't provide sufficient information as related to RAD remod, or any assurances that the RAD program is not going to be put into place within that 1-year period, from the standpoint that we had gotten some conflicting information as it pertained to what the housing authority was doing with the information with their housing units as they move forward. And so in order to satisfy what we had, I talked to Mr. Holmes and asked with that, and also we spoke with counsel, but I asked them, would it be sufficient for us to get an affidavit from Dr. Woods attesting to the fact that they would not be doing any redevelopment within the next 12 months, which was the concern of the commission. And we got an affidavit which basically says, I, Dr. Anthony Woods, President, CEO of the Plaque Housing Authority, located in the city of Palaca, County of Putnam, Florida, make an oath and say that the Plaque Housing Authority has no immediate plans to raise and or redevelop any of its inventory or construct any outstanding Faircloth units within the next 12 months. And so the Faircloth units are the 62 units from Frank George, and the language of the raise and remodel comes from RAD. That's the RAD language as well. And so that was the concern that we had, because when we look at the annual report, one of the things that we have to determine is, does it comply with our comp plan? And so by them saying that they have no plan within that 12-month period, says that there's nothing that's going to be in it that's going to affect the comp plan. The other piece of it was there were some inconsistencies or at least some omissions as it related to the minutes they had from their meeting that was addressed by Commissioner Jones, by me, by council and the city manager as to what those inconsistencies were. They had no mention of the annual plan. They actually did the corrective minutes to show that there were, to show that annual plan, that it was an annual plan meeting and to meet the concerns that we had. We spoke with both the regional field manager, with the field manager out of Jacksonville, Mr. Hayes, who was on the phone with us, as well as Dr. Scott Ford, who was a facilitator for the conversation. They called me and asked about what was in place and also explained to me what HUD's position was formally. And I immediately had a conversation with the city manager upon hearing that. It was after hours. And so we had him put forth the concerns of the commission. And so we brought it back so that we could kind of move forward with this at this time. Any questions from the commission?
I'm just glad to see this affidavit is done. I did have a meeting with Dr. Woods and their attorney, and I did have some questions after that, but seeing this affidavit indicating that they're not going to do any renovations or anything within the next 12 months, I don't have any issues with moving forward.
Any other concerns? I know Commissioner Jones, you're the liaison for PHA. You have any concerns? No, sir. Any Commissioner Board, anyone at this time? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right, there's a motion to approve the annual plan of PHA. There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimously. I will execute. At this time, that concludes our agenda for this meeting. If there is nothing pressing, we're going to waive comments until tomorrow. We're going to be back here tomorrow with our workshop. Commissioner Jones is going to lead the workshop. We're going to have the workshop tomorrow to address the issues. Whoever our department heads in here, we'll move forward at that time. Is there anything else that we need before the commission this time? Commissioner Bohr, got anything?
No, sir.
Anyone else? Anything pressing that we need to address from staff, from the city manager? Okay. We have one of our officers who was recently injured in an auto accident. He's good. So we're going to make sure we continually send our prayers out for him and everyone who was involved in that accident. If there's nothing else, we'll stand adjourned.